All right, let's see if the audio is working. Today we are analyzing a deal for Alex, who is one of our affordable housing and real estate investing community members. He sent me a deal in Colorado Springs. So for those of you watching, don't forget, I've been getting a lot of questions about how to start a nonprofit. Check out the latest podcast episode on youtube.com/I-can't_HG. And that's how you guys will be able to see and learn from Sherry on how to start a nonprofit and get access to some grants that are specifically dedicated to nonprofits. All right, so let's get right into the deal. 10852 Nolan Drive, Colorado Springs, 80925. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit for all of you. I think it works. Total entry 43,525.78. Oh, let me zoom back out because it's so weird when it's distorted on Instagram. For those of you that are watching Instagram, go to youtube.com/I-can't_HG. You want to see the full screen version. Cash or seller 17,800. 13,725 was agent commission. Assignment fee was 12,000. Principal balance $440,000. Interest rate is 2.63. Principal interest escrow was $481.49. It's a VA loan with a maturity of 11/2051. So I'm going to assume that the loan was originated in 2021 for 30-year loan. Close escrow 12/22. So this is his question. Alex's question was, hey, I saw that the rental program says that the market rent FMR is $4,050, but he saw that the long-term rental is $23.85. All right, well, let's take a quick look at this deal and kind of verify these things. All right, so what do we have here? 10852 Nolan Drive. Let's take a quick look at the photos. Looks like it's in pretty good shape. It's got some carpet. Looks like it's pretty turnkey for the most part. I mean, could you replace the carpet? Yeah, but I'm not seeing any big items here. Hey, Alex, you're in the stream. Oh, look at this. I'm assuming this is an unfinished basement. I'm assuming. All right, so we got some deal details there. Let me check the neighborhood. Tophap.com. 10852 Nolan Drive. I just want to check the crime index score real quick. I have no idea. Loan solution. Hey, Ruth, how you doing? Good to know that you're from Colorado Springs. Let's check this neighborhood out. 27, very safe neighborhood. So there you go. All right, very safe neighborhood. Okay, next thing we want to do is we want to Google HUD FMR. And I'll show you guys the entire process. I took a quick look at this. HUD FMR, you click on the fair market rents and you go to access the small area FMR. And what you're going to do is look up FY 2024. Go to Colorado, and this was in El Paso County. Zip code was 80925. So this is where you see the rents. So fair market rent stands for FMR, vice versa. And you see the bedroom count and the fair market rents for 3 bedrooms, 3440 and 4050. Great. So that is the ceiling rent, right? Next thing I want to do is I want to go to affordablehousing.com and grab the market rent. When you go to affordablehousing.com, you can go to the owner section, click on the market rent estimator, and plug in the address. When you plug in the address, you plug in a bedroom count, and then it'll show you a couple of rental rates. You can see here, I'm going to note this in my Excel file now, since I got my Excel file open on the other page. I'll share the Excel file once we get into these numbers. But I'm going to write down 2291, 2375, 2407, and 2337. This tells me that within a 0.43 mile radius, there are 25 units right here that are renting out for 2337. So that's the market rent, quote unquote. Now that's pretty dense, right? 25 units right within half a mile radius. So it seems pretty legit. And this is the problem. There is such a big gap right now from 2337 to 4050. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to Google Colorado Springs Housing Authority, Housing Choice Voucher Payment Standards. Usually this is what I would do if there is such a big spread, and just because Alex is a good friend, and a good community member, I'm gonna do this extra research. Hot FMR is not the crime rate. It was a tophap.com, tophap.com, FY jumping jags. And what I'm looking for is I can go to the website, Section 8 housing authority. You can see that usually for every county or city, they have something called blank city name followed by housing authority. I'm also going to click on some documents and some schedules because I am doing research live with you guys. And let's see, housing choice voucher, utility allowance. I probably want to know that because this isn't an HOA. This is not an HOA, so I don't really care about utilities. Because sometimes if they are an HOA and it's covered and the water's covered as HOA, you might want to know that. Fair market rent voucher payment standard. This is what you want to know. Effective 1/1/24. This is amazing. This is probably as accurate as you're going to get. Let's see if we can get something here. 80925. 80925. I'm looking at my zip code. 80925. This is the SMFAR. Where's my payment standards? Here we go. Colorado payment standards, utility allowance, income limits, and voucher payment standard. This is what I want. Department of Housing. So you can see that El Paso County right here, the payment standard for a 4-bedroom is 2,590. This seems to make a lot more sense because a payment standard is 2,590, and that's a lot closer to the 2,337 that we saw earlier. Now, usually payment standards includes, hey, Jumpy, yes, is this saved to my YouTube channel? And it's right on the live section. Now, when you're able to find that the payment standards for your specific bedroom count in the specific county is 2,590, that's probably what I'm going to roll with. So at 2,590, that's also going to include utilities. So this is probably the ceiling rent that I would use and not the 4,050. Unless you call the county and call the housing authority and say, hey, I got this property, it's brand new, blah, blah, blah. Do you guys make exceptions? And how do you guys go above the payment standards? Chances are, I don't think they will go above the payment standards. It's rare to make people make exceptions or variances for you. So just heads up there. So 2,590 is what I care about. And then the other one here is 2,245. I want to save this PDF later so that I can put this onto our Facebook group just so other people can see it. And this will cover essentially most of Colorado, I think. All right. So that's the rent I got. And just so to recap, right? We went through the deal details. We got the numbers. We went to HUD FMR to get the fair market rents. But again, that is always contingent upon the market rent and what the payment standards are. Usually those overrule and over trump any of the FMRs because you might be in a very high cost of living area like New York City or Boston where people might pay 110%, 120% FMR. If I see that the housing authority has a different number but is very specific to that county or by bedroom count, I would use that number over anything else. This, I think, Alex, you said it looked like a deal, so you want to look a little bit closer. So hence why we're looking at this together. All right, and then we got the market rent, and from the market rent, just so you guys remember, we saw a big variance. It was 2,337 for 25 units with a 0.4 mile radius. Then what we decided to do is usually you can Google the housing authority's name. You can try to figure out what the payment standards are, and that's how I ended up on this page for the Colorado government, and that's how they gave me the voucher payment standards here. So that's how I found this. And sometimes you just Google, but I like that it says effective 1/1/2024. So that seems like it is potentially that is the most accurate number. Still, it does not prevent you from calling the housing authority and trying to figure out if they will make any sort of changes. The numbers below, see, it says right, the numbers below are not what the housing authority paid towards rents. Instead, the numbers are used as a part of formulas to determine portions. Payment standards vary by zip code and by thing. A unit within the payment standard will still be denied the rent is not reasonable or comparable to rent. See, this is the rent reasonable test that you guys really want to care about. If the rent is not reasonable compared to rent levels. This is exactly the terminology that I was talking about, where you cannot charge more rent to someone simply because they are a voucher holder. And you can kind of see that this is listed out right here. All right, next step is I'm going to stop sharing my browser. I want to share the Excel file. Let's go through this together. Let me pull up my payment details over here. All right. Again, for those of you that are watching on Instagram, you can go to youtube.com/account_HE to get a full screen version. So purchase price 484,052.68. Renovations. I'm going to put aside just a little bit of money for paint, but it looked like the property was fully intact, 2450. So I'm going to assume it's like livable. So I'm going to put in 2450 for paint, and I'm going to zero everything else essentially. Don't need anything else. I'm assuming if we find something during inspection, that it is what it is. So that's still like $8,000 that we're setting aside, which is probably more than enough, in my opinion, for this house. Monthly income rents. What did we say it was going to be? It was going to be 2590. And I'm going to use 2337 just in case right now. 2337. I'm just using a market rent. The principal, I'm going to use this balance. The principal, the PITI was 2331. 2331.7. I'm going to subtract that by the principal, subtract by the interest, and I'll plug in the principal balance of the property that we're taking over, which is 440,526.9. The interest rate was 2.63. This was originated in 11/1/2021. Since it has a maturity of 11/1/2051. All right. How much do we have? We have cash or seller at 17,800. We had agent commission of 13,725 plus an assignment fee of 12 grand. So I'm gonna add that all in right now. Put that equal signs there. What else do we have? No HOA. All right. I'm gonna add $30 for insurance. I got 10% for my maintenance at $233.70. No HOA. And I'm not putting utilities in there because I'm using FMR. I'm not even using payment standards because usually payment standards include utilities. So that's something you just want to be super aware of. If you were to use the payment standard number of 2590, you would have to put in utility costs like water, electricity, and sometimes that could be really, really pricey. So for me right now, this is not a deal if I'm using 2337 as my rent. Boom, 2337. Cash flow per month is negative $515. So you're paying $515 out of your pocket every single month. That's 11.8% cash on cash return. And this was a purchase price of $484,000. And because you're negative cash flow right now, it still doesn't work. So what if I bumped it up to 2590? And that's my best standard, quote unquote, 2590. But then I got to put at least $200 of utilities in there, and it still doesn't work because you're kind of back to nothing. So I don't think this is a deal. Alex, if you're watching, your best bet might be to call the housing authority and say, hey, why is there such a big discrepancy from FMR? But then they're going to probably be like, hey, your market rent here in this area is probably 2337. So I don't see this as a deal unless you're going for an appreciation play. Now, could you say this is a newer home and my maintenance should be a lot lower? Even if you made this 5% and you go back to 2337 for the market rent, which is right here, you lower the maintenance to 5%. You still don't have HOA. You're charging 2337. You're hoping that's reasonable. Oh, I don't know. This is tough. I also checked that this isn't a fire zone, so you definitely want to get an insurance policy in place to see whether or not there's going to be extra surcharges because you're also in a fire zone when I checked on Redfin. So I really wouldn't go lower than 5% on maintenance. And at that point, you're really kind of you're really trying to squeeze this thing to make it a deal. And it's just not a cash flowing property. Yeah, and this is a pretty low interest rate already. So for me, this is not a deal, but if you believe there's a significant amount of appreciation in this area, then maybe that's something you look into further. But for now, at 2337, I don't think it's a deal. You can probably give a quick call to the housing authority and say, like, hey, why is there so much spread there? But I doubt it, especially we just saw the payment standards for El Paso County, and it was listed right there as 2590. So you can probably ask and just give them a quick call and see whether or not they can offer you a better rent. Maybe if it's in a really nice neighborhood and you can make those claims about different amenities, man, I think that's a very tough sell. What if it's a 5-bedroom at 2980? 2980. How about that? So the payment standard for a 5-bedroom from the same spreadsheet we looked at was 2980. If you got this to 2980, all right, let's get creative. And your maintenance is 5%, but you're still putting over $200 of utilities. This might be a deal for you. You want to just hold it. It's not going to cash flow, but at least you're closer to break even. And if you assume that that 150 you're setting aside each month isn't going to, let me change this to utilities. So in this scenario, I would convert the garage or something like that into an additional bedroom. So I'm going to add 20 grand on the garage, convert it. So you would be right at break even in order to get that 5th bedroom to rent it out at 2980. Maybe you're converting garage, and that's probably how I would try to make it a deal. But again, it's not cash flowing. If you do that, you're doing it simply because you want to get the cash flow to break even so you can hold this property. And if you assume that this is in a high appreciating market, which I don't underwrite for appreciation, that's a pure choice on your side. So what did you say? I have house rent, Section 8 and Fountain, $2,000 for 3 2-bedrooms. They offer around 2,100. If you want to check the house in that zip code. I have house rent, Section 8 in Fountain, $2,000 for a 3-bedroom. They offer around 2,700. Hey Ruth, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm reading your comment correctly, but it sounds like you were able to get a little bit higher rents in your area for a 3-bedroom for 2,700. That's not too far off than what I'm seeing right here. So it's not like significantly different. So thanks for the comment, Ruth. I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your experience in Colorado Springs. All right, so this is it. I didn't have anything else to kind of go through, but Alex, thanks for submitting that deal for us to underwrite together so we can learn from one another. I think it was helpful for us to go through the payment standards here because usually a lot of people get tripped up with just how big of a spread there is. But if you ever get a more accurate number by Googling your city or your county's name, followed by housing authority, and you can Google payment standards, usually that gives you a much better indication of what the maximum rents are that they will allow for that area. Some people will stick it by county, some people will stick it by zip code, but yeah, that's it. All right. Have an amazing Tuesday, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the live. Thank you so much for participating in our affordable housing and real estate investment community. Thank you for submitting deals. I'm glad we all learned a little bit here today. And thank you so much for caring about affordable housing. Without people like yourselves, I would have never had the home I grew up in. So I'm glad I can kind of come on here and do the work and pay it forward. So Alex, if you're watching this, I hope you can pay it forward and help another person analyze a deal eventually one day in our community. And that's it. Have an amazing Tuesday, everybody. I'll be back here again tomorrow. This is day 72, and we're going to keep going strong until day 100. Have a good one.